get a highlighter, and let's get going here. Percentile ranking. The ranking is what you should focus on, right? The term percentile, so here it is. Percentile has the same base as the term percent or percentage, right? So it relates to out of 100. It relates to out of 100. Make sure you highlight that part. Percentiles are used to organize, right? They're used to organize sets of data so that you can see, right? You can see how one value compares to the other values. That is very important, right? Can I use another highlighter? No. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm just going to do this. Okay. What's percentile rank? It's you see how one value compares to the other. So let's talk heights, because that's always that's where I come in, right? If a doctor looks at my height and be like, oh, Mr. Dirksen, you are way up on the percentile. Like there's a lot of people underneath you, right? In terms of height. Well, it makes sense, right? So that's what we're doing. It's comparing where your height, your score, it could be anything. How do you compare to the rest, right? Normally we don't want to compare, but sometimes it is beneficial, right? A percentile rank, so there's percentile, guys, then there's percentile rank. It's different, okay? Indicates the percentage of values of the given data that are lower than the given number. What? Percentage of values. Just highlight that thing, and I will summarize it one more time further down. If a number is said to be at the 60th percentile, it means that 60% of the numbers in the set are below the given number. Okay, I'm going to use a different highlighter for that one. Okay, if you see the word 60th percentile, okay, it means that 60% of the values are below the given number. Okay, so if somebody says, hey, my test puts me in the 60th percentile, it doesn't mean that you scored 60% on the test. It means that 60% of your classmates scored less than you. That's all it's saying, right? We don't know exactly what your score is. So that's the definition. So alternate notations would be P60 is the same thing as 60th percentile, right? So don't be too thrown off if this shows up as opposed to that. They both mean the same thing. Okay. A percentile rank indicates where a value stands with respect to the other values. It's repeating the same thing. You're comparing. A percentile rank can be calculated using the following formula, where B, let's highlight that. B is the number of values below, right? The one being considered. And N is the total number of values. You should have this on your study sheet, right? Add to your study sheet. Try to think. Oh, it is on your formula sheet, and it looks exactly the same. It is on your formula sheet, so it's up to you. If you're running out of space. To be honest, a lot of my students, by the time they're ready for the exam, they don't look at the formula sheet anymore. They have everything on their study sheet. Maybe a good strategy. So you're like, I know this is right. I've been using it. And there you go. Watch what it says here. Since the PR is at rank, right? Since PR is at rank, we only use whole numbers. And do not use percentage. You're going to find this a little challenging at first because it keeps talking about percentages, but we do not use percentages there. So here's a picture that I put in. So let's say this is you, right? This is the value being considered. Arrow from the top, right? So this is the person that is being considered. The particular height of that person, it doesn't matter. If we find out that 80% of people scored less or are shorter or whatever, right? We would say that this person is in the 80th percentile. Write that down. 80th percentile. And the percentile rank would be 80%. And you're like, what? Come again, Mr. Dixon? So the percentile is 80th, which tells us that 80% of the, in this case, the values are less than the one you're considering. So this is what it means, right? 80th percentile tells us that 80% of the values are less or below the one being considered. That's what that is. That's what percentile is telling us. The 80th percentile tells you that 80% of the values are below the one you're considering. You're like, what about the ones above, Mr. Dirksen? It's not interested in that. It's just below, right? It's just below. So here it is. Again, percentile number from 1 to 99 that shows what percentage of values in the data are lower than the given value, right? And percentile rank is the percentage of values that are lower than the one given. Okay, so they're very related, but they're stated differently. Okay, what am I going to say here? Why does it say 1 to 99? Why not 1 to 100? You can't have 100% of the people in this class below you, right? Can you? Because you are included in this set. So if you say everybody scored less than me, that means that even you scored less than yourself, right? So it's 99 is like the highest percentile you can be at, okay? This is very important. I'm going to use like 3 or 4 highlighters for this one because I will somehow find a way to test you on this. A percentile does not tell you the actual score, but only how the score compares to the rest. So I'm going to use this one. Maybe 2 highlighters will suffice. Eh? Enough is enough. Right? It's just somehow make it stand out. Like if I tell you, hey, I scored on the 80th percentile, we have no idea at that point what your actual score was. You could have failed. You could have failed the test, and on top of that, 80% did worse than you yet. Right? So we don't know what your score is. We just know where your score places you with respect to everything else. Okay? Let's keep going. I'm going to stop so that there's 5 minutes left of class. Eh? Then you can decompress. You can find yourself, do whatever needs to be done. Okay. So watch this. The following shows the average amounts of sleep students between the ages of 15 to 18 are getting per night. Okay. So let's put it into perspective here. If you get 5 hours of sleep, that puts you in the 75th percentile, which means that 75% of students get less than you. Okay, if you get 5 hours of sleep, it coincides with 75th percentile. If you get 6 hours of sleep, it puts you in the 90th percentile. So if 6 hours of sleep would say that 90% of students, or I guess students between the ages of 15 and 18 would be getting less sleep than you. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's what this chart is saying. There's a correlation between the hours of sleep and the percentile. Right? You could have another percentile rank underneath here. You go 10%, 40%, 50%, and so forth. But this is enough. Okay. What percentage of students get less than 3 hours of sleep? 3 hours. So 3 hours puts you here. 3 hours puts you here, which coincides with 40th, right? So 3 hours places you in the 40th percentile. Trust me, after today, you're going to hear this. When you have news items being talked about, you will hear percentile, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember Mr. Dixon talked about it. You probably heard it before, but you didn't really register that. Which means, watch this, which means that 40% of students get less 3 hours, which is mind-boggling, right? Anyways, what percentage of students get between 5 and 6 hours of sleep? Whoa, 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 what's this? Between 5 and 6. Between 5 and 6. Listen carefully here. 6 hours means that 90% are less. 5 hours means that 75% are less. Okay? So what you need to find out is what is this gap here? Like what percentage would be found in here? Okay? I'm going to use a different highlighter. I want to know from here all the way to here. Right? Basically this chunk. Right? That's what this is asking for. Okay? So we're going to 6 hours puts you in the 90th percentile. 5 hours puts you in the 75th percentile, which tells us that, oops, sorry, I'm too excited here on a Monday. 75th, 90th, which means that 75% are below, and this tells us that 90% of students get less sleep than that. So what we're going to do is subtract these. Okay, we're going to go 90 minus 75. That is 15% of students get between 5 to 6 hours. Okay. So 50. Oh, full disclaimer, I just made these numbers up. Okay. Based on my feeling, what I feel is actually happening out there, but I could be totally wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong, right? I hope I'm way off. But here is your 15%, right? So sometimes you can figure out the in between, because right, if 90 are below and 75 are below here, then subtracting the percentages leaves you with this little chunk there. Okay. Okay, keep going. We haven't done any calculations as to like percentile yet. We haven't used that formula yet. I'm fully aware of that. What percentage of students get less than 4 hours of sleep? What name do we give this value? So watch this. I haven't used pink yet, so I'm going to use pink, right? 4 hours. It puts you right here, which coincides with this. So if you're in the 50th percentile, 50% of people get less sleep than you, and we are kind of assuming that 50% will get more than you if you are placed in this category, right? So 50% get less sleep. And here's the answer to the question. This is also called the median. The median 4 hours of sleep. So there's a bit of a relationship between what we've been doing and percentile. How many hours of sleep does a student in the 80th percentile get? Can this be determined? And look at our chart up there, 80th percentile, we don't know. We actually don't know this. 80th would probably be somewhere in here, but we don't have an exact amount, so cannot be determined. Not be determined with the information given, info provided. which is the chart, right, or the table. Like we don't have anything else. We don't know anything else here. We don't even know the total number of students that have been considered for this study. I'm going to stop there. Thank you, guys.